Good morning and welcome to the Leaders Brief by EgoMonk. While the global economy slowly paces towards recovery from the pandemic, we will examine avenues that cab aggregators have to minimize the impact of recession today, look into a few tools that come with the increasing popularity of AI in the tourism sector, and take a glimpse of the future of startups in Africa. The darkest shadows of the SARS-CoV-2 virus have fallen on travel and logistics. And in such a scenario, cab aggregators like Ola and Uber are faced with issues ranging from forced business cuts to unforeseen losses. Adding to that, the COVID pandemic is reshaping societal communication as we have known it, and cab aggregators are adapting to the change. Before the epidemic, the app-based cab service system had already become the fastest growing cab service model. However, the drop in demand for travel and restrictions imposed by lockdowns have put a grim cloud on cab aggregators as they find ways to associate with businesses that have been least affected by the pandemic, such as e-commerce. In fact, several e-commerce firms are now in talks with cab aggregators to utilize vehicles for product delivery purposes, work in warehouses, and help with grocery service. Cabs are also being frequently used in transporting patients to and from the hospitals and for other medical emergencies. Aggregators have recently released guidelines to protect both passengers and drivers for safe and secure travel amidst the lifting of the lockdown.
The silver lining here is that we have also built over the last 4 years a food delivery business that has turned into the largest food delivery business, Uber Eats, in the world outside of China. We built it organically. Actually, we announced a big deal in that category. That category has grown very quickly. So we have actually an interesting hedge in that our rides business was hit by a shock that it's returning from. And our delivery business now has really had a boost, growing very, very quickly. Hopefully we can get the best of both worlds, both sides of the business growing after this crisis.
Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi said in an NDTV interview, Uber globally reported a loss of $2.9 billion in the first quarter of 2020 and laid off 14% of its workforce in May. Recently, Indian cab aggregator Ola witnessed a revenue decline of 95% due to the lockdown. The company's COO and global CMO, Arjun Srinivas, as well as Sanjeev Sadhi, the senior vice president, resigned from their positions amidst the crisis. Media reports suggest that Ola is in the process of laying off 1,400 employees due to the slowdown. Uber recently announced that it has begun installing safety screens in 20,000 Premier sedans. The company added that such safety cockpits will be scaled up across other product categories as well. While such innovation will increase passenger safety, the cost of operations will also increase, with demand not expected to see a significant spike until at least October 2021. The situation may accelerate the development of driverless cars to ferry passengers. Another industry severely hit by the global pandemic is tourism, seeing losses over $3 trillion globally. Attempts to come out of this downfall are pushing companies to adopt new techniques to kickstart their businesses while maintaining safety protocols. Artificial intelligence seems to be leading the shift into safer tourism practices in the aftermath of the pandemic. The travel industry is optimizing AI and data science to maintain normalcy as much as possible, determine optimal air traffic routes to avoid overcrowding, and to minimize contact during travel. AI is also being harnessed to implement tasks such as touchless data entry, food delivery, cleaning, and sterilization. Post the pandemic, the tourism industry is expected to take the longest time to revive itself, and the number of global tourists is expected to shrink by 65 to 70%.
Precisely, and these protocols are really critical, and that's why we have really focused on this. So for us, public and private collaboration needs to happen and is really paramount in this process, because we have looked at other crises in the past, and if you think, for example, of 9/11 and how that impacted the sector, given that it was a crisis originated in one country as opposed to globally as it is in this case. I think the big lesson learned from that was the lack of collaboration between governments, but also with the private sector. So, I mean, what we've been saying is we really need to learn from that, because what happened back then is that governments started imposing their measures based on obviously their intelligence and their data, but there was no coordination whatsoever, which really became very difficult for the traveler. So you would basically be facing different restrictions in different countries and with different companies. So that is what we're trying to avoid.
In an interview with Al Jazeera, Virginia Messina, Managing Director of the World Travel and Tourism Council, reiterated the need for public and private partnerships to ensure the tourism industry gets back on its feet before the COVID vaccine is finally available. The World Tourism Organization and Telefonica, a Spanish multinational telecommunications company, have sealed such a partnership and are working to promote the use of big data and AI. The focus would be to better understand tourist behavior and help manage tourists' flow within the new context of safety protocols amidst the pandemic. The COVID-induced push towards technological innovation and development is having a profound impact on Africa as well. In the continent, where less than 28% of people have access to the internet, the growing urgency for faster connectivity will open up an almost untouched customer base for firms such as Facebook and Google. The African startup ecosystem has seen some significant investments from global leaders. Its young demography and rapidly increasing urban population make it a potential market for technology and innovation.
Yeah, so I think there has been a ton of development in the last 5 years, and it's super exciting. And I'd say just if you think about it from sort of where the investment is coming from, but even just the ecosystem of players in this space, right? So I think one is you're seeing actually just more founders come out and develop companies that we can invest in, and by we I mean the investment community. So I think that crop of individuals is growing. Then I think, when you look at sort of the investment space, what we've seen in the last few years is just the number of accelerators and incubators that have developed over the continent. That number has increased massively. And I think that's creating sort of a platform or a launch platform for more and more entrepreneurs to develop businesses. When I look at, I guess, private equity funds like ourselves, typically we look at bigger check sizes. But I think when you think of where growth is likely to come from on the continent, it forces us to look at even the earlier stage companies. So, where you're finding what you'd call maybe non-traditional VC players actually playing in that space as well.
Fope Adelovo, Senior Vice President of Helios Investment Partners, had said in a 2018 TechCrunch panel discussion, Helios recently merged with Fairfax Africa Holdings to create a pan-Africa focused alternate investment firm. After the merger, Fairfax Africa Holdings will be renamed Helios Fairfax Partners Corporation, with combined assets crossing the $3.5 billion mark. Africa appeals to companies in financial technology and payments because of its large underbanked and unbanked population. Tech giants like Microsoft, Facebook, and Google have already established on-ground accelerator programs for African startups, while the likes of Visa, Uber, and Alipay are engaging as strategic investors. That is all for today. Tune into Egomong to stay updated on the latest happenings and the impact on global trade, technology, and innovation. Egomong helps you make sense of change. We are a global intelligence platform delivering asymmetric outcomes by bringing organizations closer to the communities they want to serve and the leaders they wish to influence. Visit our website insights.egomong.com, that is insights.egomong.com, to subscribe and make better and faster decisions today. If you wish to collaborate with us, then please email us at contact@egomong.com.